All right, this is the time you've been waiting for at the top of the hour. And today, it's not only exciting, but about to get very, very interesting. Most of you have celebrated him for so many years, and every time he comes to your screens, you have more and more questions. Professor George Wajackoyah is in studio. You would ask, what about him? Who is this man, Wajackoyah? As always, the keyword, professor. He is a professor of law. He is, of course, a politician. He was a presidential candidate in 2022 in the general elections that were held on the 9th of August. He ran under the Roots Party of Kenya, where he is the party leader. But also, it's very important to understand that Professor is teaching at USIU for about 4 years now. Professor is a family man. He will proudly tell you about his family right here in studio. He owns, of course, he's a media lawyer, has his own media house in New York. He has his law firm in Karen. A lot of things that you want to know about Professor, because a lot of people, Professor, even as I continue to talk about your profile, seemingly say, we know that guy. We know that his party, rooted for legalization of bang, but really, what does it bring to the table? What is different with Wajackoyah? In fact, some even analyze further and say, in 2012, you showed interest in vying. And then suddenly, according to them, you withdrew from the race. So there's a lot about you out there, but it's so good to have you here to speak on matters of national importance and also tell us more about you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. And may I take this opportunity to send my message of condolences to my former deputy, my former running mate, Justina Wamai. She's lost her mom. We are with her in prayers, and I will make sure that I visit her family as soon as time allows. And I'm so grateful to come back again with the warm welcome that you've done. You said that I ran away from running for president in 2012. No, it was the system by then. They kept me at bay. They refused to register my party, so I spent most of my time in court. By the time I got registration certificate, it was 1 week to elections, so my hands were tied. And then they started propaganda saying that he ran away. It's okay.
So you were essentially saying, for those who believed you ran away, it was not a matter of running away, it was a system.
Yes.
But how about, I also look back a bit about City High School. You went to City High School?
Yes, I did, actually. Most
people are challenging me to ask where that school is. How is it doing?
It is the current Pioneer International University, but City High School is a legend school. I was very privileged to go to City High School, because if you look at my background, I was a chokora, and I had joined Hare Krishna. I lived in the streets of Nairobi for so many years. Grogan Road by that time, which is the current Kirinyaga Road, was adjacent to Nairobi River. That's where we used to take a shower, if at all there was one. Then there were so many mosquitoes on Grogan Road, currently Kirinyaga Road, Muindi mosquitoes, temples where we used to run around to eat before I joined the Hare Krishna. So there was a Muindi, one of the proprietor, the previous proprietor of City High School, Mr. Ramlal Sharma, who had a lot of interest in me, as well as J.J. Kamodo. Kamodo by that time was the Minister for Higher Education, and Professor Ngeno was the Minister for Basic Education. So I was taken to City High School. It was full of Asians. And for the first time, I sat in the same classroom with the Muindis. But unfortunately, I used to be a cleaner at night. I used to sleep in the classroom on a box because I could not go back to Hare Krishna anymore that particular time. And then I could help workers to clean the classes in the evening. And then that's how it was. And I could read through the corridor lights. And those who are with me can attest to that fact that I was one boy who was very notorious, staying in school 24/7. So that is where I went to high school.
Just looking at your background and the glimpse of your life that you've shared with us today, you see a number of people celebrated Ruto when he took over presidency. It was all over headlines. Son of a village, from a village of Sugoi rising to the ranks of presidency. And that was basically it. hustler, understanding what life is at the grassroots, and that was the manifesto for Kenya Kwanza. Now, I am not comparing you really, but you have equally had such a difficult life in your childhood. People would want to believe that you would understand what a common Mwananchi wants. If you look at what Kenya Kwanza is doing 2 years down the line, if you had Dwale in one of the news pieces saying, President William Ruto has shocked the North. He has exceeded their expectations and has done just what he promised. Do you share the sentiments of what Kenya Kwanza has done within the 2 years that it has been in power?
First of all, when it comes to Ruto's upbringing, I congratulate him. Because if you look at where the man came from, and I've been there. I have been there when I went to visit Sudi, who was by then my client. I remember the Sudi's case of Makaratasi. It's me who was one of the lawyers. And initially, he had taken me to Ruto's home. I even went where Ruto used to sell chicken. That was before the elections.
So he actually used to sell
yes,
chicken?
It is indeed true. And I would have respected him if he did not do what he's doing at the moment. If Dwale talks, Dwale just vomits. Dwale has no moral authority to speak because there are so many questions he will have to answer when we actually come to power. There are so many things that have happened within the Ministry of Defense. There is the inquiry of the late General Ogola, which happened when Dwale was actually Minister for Defense. They are not telling us what happened. We need that inquiry seriously. So Dwale should talk the way he wants to talk, but at the same time also let us balance it this way.
All right.
If you look at Northeastern and the people of Northeastern, these people have suffered for a very long time under colonial times. Their land was actually hived off by colonialists and given to Kenya, which is not a secret. And they were treated like prisoners in their own country by colonial masters. The Kenyatta One administration mistreated Kenyan Somalis for a very big time. And I have to say that what Ruto has done with the Kenyan Somalis is okay with me, because at least he has given them what they ought to have gotten in those dark days. But now when Dwale comes up and starts making very reckless statements, he'll be answerable in our government in the future. Anyone who says anything right now, anyone who does what is not right, he should come out. Like Gachagua is now speaking today, and he's speaking well. But what Gachagua is forgetting is that he's an accomplice. He's an accomplice to the disappearances of the kids who disappeared, of the people who were murdered when we were doing our Zimio protest at that particular time, of the times when he used to announce things that were very unbelievable, at the times when he used to go to his office very early in the morning telling the president that Nwachie Rais yote nitamaliza. Let him also account. Let him be man enough. I like what he's doing now, but it's too late. Let him come out and say, but by the way, during the Azimio maandamanos, hata sisi tulijua watoto wangapi waliwawa, majensis wakati huo, watu wangapi waliwekwa ndani, kwa nini Raila alikuwa anapigwa marisasi, Ruto alikuwa amenituma, because he says that the scripts were written for him. Why he was calling me muti ya sufuria, why he banned me from going to central Kenya. And unless he comes out and accounts for those disappearances, those killings, reparation, can I continue? Reparation, and also asking for holistic apology to Kenyans, holistic apology to Kenyans for the misdeeds, then he is actually an accomplice for the ESC, for the ICC, ICC, when the right time comes, because no crime roles. Those who killed the Jewish people in those early days and fled Israel to South America to hide in caves, some of them were caught, some of them were like, one of them was 99 years old and taken back for trial. So those are crimes against humanity that you cannot run away from.
Now, I'm curious to understand, because the same, duo you're talking about, recently you had the remarks of Rigathi Gachagua, and I'm drawing this from Mark Twain's quote. I don't know if you had Mark Twain, who said, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Rigathi Gachagua is claiming that he was bribed by President William Ruto for certain reasons. At this point in time, I mean, it doesn't seem as though he was one with him, as you bring it out, or is it just a matter of aligning with the politics of succession come 2027? What do you think is going on? Because at this point, Kenyans are asking, Where do they come in if they're seeing the back and forth between President William Ruto and the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua over a 2 billion shillings bribery claim?
I cannot comment on just facts that come in as a result of hearsay. Whatever Gachagua says is suspect.
Okay. Because
he has not apologized to us that he maimed. I'm not saying it because of anything else. I don't hate Gachagua. I met him somewhere and in a funeral in Nyandarua. And whatever he has to say, let him say it. But let him also be accountable for what I said recently. Now, if he's talking of 2 billion and what have you, I was also asked to be a minister the other day. I was told by some governors from the Rift Valley that, Wajackoyah joined the government, what have you, and I refused, and I went out and I said, I'm not joining. Okay. But if it's alleging, well, let him allege, but let him also not use himself. He should have copied Kibaki. When Kibaki was relegated by Moi, he shut up. When the late Dr. Josephat Karanja was relegated also, he shut up. There's a way of learning, and there's a way of doing things in a particular way. But if you want to be confrontational, it's you to be harmed. You're harming yourself, harming your chances, and when the right time comes, people will be like, I wish I had followed the Chinese principle of silence. Silence is gold, and talking is silver. At the time, you need to be silent. And then you live for things to manifest themselves. But you can never be confrontational all the time. As students of Moi, because I worked in that regime, I know how things work. Sometimes you keep quiet, doesn't mean you are stupid. Sometimes you have to say good things. Sometimes you have to balance. When something is wrong, you talk about it. Right. When it's good, you talk about it. Indeed. But you cannot holistically now come and blame everything. Oh, Ruto alifanya hii, Ruto ndiye alifanya hii. But you're man enough, why are you not circumcised? To stand up and say no.
Interesting. You know, speaking of silence, because one of the major things that Kenyans will not be silent about is abductions.
Yes.
As we're speaking, 2 missing bodies. According to the families, they are positive that these are their kin. But of course, we have the pathologist warning that it's important that science comes in and that they're able to actually match that DNA. However, we're seeing the reasons or what actually led to their death. They were tortured before their death, multiple abdominal, chest injuries. We're looking at strangling. And there's still others who are missing. And you just mentioned when Azimio was on the streets 2023, Mkaito out was Furia. But at this point in time, you've spoken about, you've given, to Ruto some of, a bit of appreciation there for what he has done in the north. But generally, as far as abductions are concerned, you are a lawyer, you are a legal professional, you're a professor of law. You've also actually mentioned ICC. What would be a general observation on how the government is dealing with the abductions in the country?
Ruto has not made a statement. Ruto should make a statement. Muturi came out and spoke about it. Ruto was in admission, if that telephone conversation was right. What I want to ask Ruto is, what will he do if he finds that his son has been abducted? What I want to ask Farouk is, what will he do when he hears that his son has been abducted? Abductions, they will haunt these people. How would you come and say that 5 chiefs have been abducted in Mandera?
But that was allegedly
by the... abducted, you are going to find them. That is what Ruto saying. And then people's children have been abducted, some of them killed, some of them disappeared, and you don't care about it. And then you are the president of the country. He's vicariously liable for what has happened to the men and women and to the children that have disappeared. Is disappearing the mode of operating? That's why I'm saying no. Idi Amin killed how many people? Mobutu Sese Seko killed how many people? Daniel Arap Moi killed how many people? Killed today. You'll be responsible in your grave or outside. Recently, they burned the grave of who? The former president of Jordan. Was it Jordan? The one who was abducted? The father's grave was burned. Why? So do what you do today. If you do it today, tomorrow you'll be culpably responsible. Ruto has a question to answer. He has a case to answer. I do not fear, even if it means I being arrested today, so it be. Right. But the way this government is behaving with the people's children I wonder how they will behave when their children are abducted. You cannot abduct children,
yes,
and then just stay there. Itakuwa namna hii. Wengine wanakuja kusema tambieni watoto wenu wa behave. How can somebody like Murkomen advise my children? Enda ambia watoto wa behave. Sudi coming up and telling wazazi lazima wachunge watoto wao. Come on, we cannot have this hypocrisy as we are. And I'm here to state it categorically that if that is the case, then I'm so happy, and I am with Trump on this, for cutting off aid. Wacha wale policemen warudishwe mara moja.
Haiti?
Yes.
All right.
Definitely, I'm so happy. I celebrated.
You are not for the mission?
For mission for what?
Okay.
Why would Kenya be used as a scapegoat? When we have problems in this country, problems of wrestling, cow wrestlings and what have you, and then we are going to do peace. Peace for what? That's a laughing stock to the intelligence of Kenyans. Why did he have to take people to the Haiti? Who gave that mandate? Were people asked to participate because a Kenyan who goes out of the country to serve the interests of a Kenyan is actually surrogated to taxpayers, and therefore it's a legitimate expectation to be requested of the indigeneity of what's going to happen.
Professor,
that was wrong.
Professor, we have a very supreme, arm of government, legislature. We have the parliament. And through this particular, Haiti mission, we saw the process go through parliament. There was a note there about, there were concerns about, back and forth here. And a lot of processes that came by around it. When you're saying who was consulted, are these people not representatives? Of Kenyans in the House?
These MPs?
Is it?
People who just, when something is wrong, like during the finance bill, you heard how they were running, vomiting, diarrheaing everywhere, people's food. And then when we protested, or the kids protested, and the president said, okay, we have this. You saw how they were clapping as sycophants. Do you want me to say that I believe in legislature of this country? Those people who have no tails, who will sing in the morning at the whims of the president? No. During Kibaki's time, and maybe Moi's time,
okay,
being a member of parliament made a lot of sense. But right now, I don't want even that job. Even if you nominate me, I will not go.
Even if I nominated you,
no.
You will not go? Okay.
To go and sit with those bunch of guys, some of them, like this CDF money, CDF.
And GCDF?
That CDF thing should be scrapped completely. Because how do you expect a member of parliament to run the CDF instead of overseeing it, then buy school buses for the schools in his area, and he writes his name, donated by Honorable so-and-so? How? This is public money. You go hata unaona ma MCS wakijenga stendi ya basi ama tuseme stendi ya bodaboda donated by MCS and so. Personalization, that's what I'm talking about. It's an illegality. This money ought to go through the county governments or state governments. In my government, of course, I will have to ask Kenyans to go for a referendum so that we regionalize the country and make counties to work within the federalism, so that they can actually, we can reduce this devolution, whereby now, instead of counties coming up with a strategic tax collection system, instead of giving counties a monopoly to acquire its own wealth, Narok being an example, whereby they produce wheat, they have tourism, they have hides and skins and meat, and also the soil. If Narok was to legislate on their own revenue, then they would be given the first priority to apportion monies for schools, for hospitals,
all right,
before they vote to take a part of that money to the state assembly. So that now we have a dual system. We have a county in a state, which is in Nakuru, for example, in Rift Valley, and then the state now will come in to work on fundamentalism, in infrastructural fundamentalities and highways, infrastructure that passes from one state to another state with the taxation system, so that the central government now would work in just as an overseer.
You know, even as you're speaking, a lot of Kenyans are still, you know, watching and streaming, and they're saying, with what Wajackoyah has, we are wondering if he will be in the ballot again 2027.
Yes, I'm running.
You'll be running?
Definitely, I'm running, and I have to thank the people of Kilifi for what they did for me last week.
Allow me to come to that just very shortly, because it's also very important to understand what's happening as far as health is concerned. I'll go big, all right, and full-blown on politics shortly, but I want to hear your comments on, you know, the health system. But first, let's hear these remarks by President William Ruto on health coverage.
Kenya sasa inapiga hatua ya kwenda mbele kwa mambo ya afya. Ile universal health coverage ambayo pale nyuma serikali ya NAC ilijaribu ikashindwa. Serikali ya Jubilee, among the big four, one of them was UHC. Serikali ya Jubilee ikashindwa. Hii serikali yenu hii ambaye mimi niliwapigia kura ndio itatekeleza universal health coverage. Sijui one term, sijui how many terms, sijui nini. That is not my concern.
All right, just a glimpse of what the president said on matters health. Wajackoyah, you are of the belief that President William Ruto is not a good leader. He's not a leader. You're saying a good leader puts their citizens first. Even from those remarks, you're not confident that President William Ruto is doing just but the best for Kenyans in as far as health is concerned?
What is the policy? What has he said? I didn't hear anything he said that made any sense. When it comes to healthcare, I think I need an hour to lecture to speak about my experiences in UK, in Cuba, and the United States, and how the healthcare systems work in those three countries, plus India. For example, in the UK, they have a National Health Insurance Fund. And how it works is devolved on the essence of tax brackets, tax rebates, and tax collection units, whereby when you are working, your monies get deducted, and then you are amenable to complete health care covering your family. And the systems work well. But let's go a little bit behind and find out how the NHS in Britain was created. If you look at the NHS system in Britain, the government, Her Majesty's government, the then Majesty, commissioned the Minister of Health to apply prerogative powers to enhance and to make sure that information was collected to find out how they were going to work on their health care system. So it was a systematic approach whereby a delegation went to Cuba from the UK to study the Cuba healthcare system. They were wondering why Cuba, as small as it was, an island in the Atlantic Ocean, was capable of having the best healthcare system in the world. And what they found out was very, very wonderful. They found out that in Cuba, every 5 Cubans had a doctor. Every 5 Cubans had a doctor to free Medicare because of what was happening. Cuba had zero tolerance on corruption, and therefore, wherever revenues that was coming in, part of it was put in healthcare, not affordable, free healthcare, where we had street doctors in the beach for tourists and what have you. Then they came and copied that and commingled with their system, and they produced that one. But notwithstanding that, let's look at the U.S. health insurance.
Yes.
What the U.S. health insurance has done, or what the government has done, is they have devolved healthcare to state departments, unless you are a federal employee. But then they have also come in and opened up competition so that many healthcare providers can come in, and then you can buy your cover without actually being confined to the so-called universal healthcare. What is universal healthcare? For what? For dogs, monkeys, and what have you? And let's go back again to Kenyatta 1. During Kenyatta 1 administration, we had free healthcare system in the country whereby healthcare was affordable at your door, was brought to your door. Veterinary doctors used to go and inoculate animals in centers which had been designated by the Ministry of Veterinary Science, by the Department of Veterinary Science. Doctors used to be sent to teach about healthcare. Maternity systems were done in such a way that doctors were available for you. And Kenya at that particular time had just gained its independence. We didn't have money, but other countries came to copy from us. And now to climatize on that, Cuba actually came to Kenya and copied their healthcare system. Singapore came. What happened? Why is Ruto not telling us about corruption? We end corruption, everything will be fine.
We end corruption, everything will be fine.
Yeah,
but who will be at the forefront to end this corruption? I want to take a very short breather, Professor. But when we come back, let's now get deeper into the political alignments. Professor Wajackoyah says he will be on the ballot. We'll also ask his position in as far as, will he be aligning with any particular person? Is it Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka? Now we're seeing Matiang'i being endorsed by the Jubilee Party. And if anything is to go by, what will be new? We'll come back with that conversation. Don't miss it after this break.